Okay, we have all been there. You spend hours, maybe even days, cramming from textbooks, your notes are a rainbow of highlighter ink, and you feel like you finally got it. And then the test is in front of you, you read the first question, and nothing. It's a total blank. All that work just feels like it evaporated.
So, what is going on here? Why does this happen? Is our memory just broken? It's an incredibly frustrating feeling, but it's also incredibly common. And it turns out there's a real science behind why our brains do this.
All right, let's just start with a number that's pretty mind-blowing. Get this. We lose about 70% of new information within a single day if we don't do anything to try and hold on to it. This isn't a new idea, by the way. It goes all the way back to a psychologist named Hermann Ebbinghaus, who called it the forgetting curve. And it's the number one reason why that last-minute, all-night cram session is almost always a recipe for disaster. So, to figure out why that forgetting curve is so steep for so many of us, we have to look at how we study. And for most people, the main culprit is a habit we're all familiar with: passive learning. This contrast right here is everything. Passive learning is just letting information wash over you. Rereading the same chapter 5 times, highlighting half the page. Harvard psychologist William Perry had a great name for it: obedient purposelessness. You're going through the motions, but your brain isn't really engaged. Active learning, on the other hand, is the total opposite. It's showing up with a mission. It's about asking questions, trying to recall information, and actually wrestling with the ideas. So, how do we make that jump from being passive to being active? Well, it starts from the very first moment you open your book or sit down for a lecture. Let's walk through a few really powerful ways to engage right from the start. This quote from a scholar way back in the 17th century just nails it. Think of it like this. Your brain needs a destination. If you don't give it a question to answer or a problem to solve, the information just drifts by. It has no reason to stick. A fantastic way to put this into practice is the SQ3R method. It's a framework that forces you to be active. First, you survey the chapter to get the lay of the land. Then, and this is the key, you turn the headings into questions. What are the 3 main causes of X? Now, when you read, you're not just reading, you're hunting for answers. After a section, you recite what you remember, forcing that recall. And finally, you review to start pushing back against that forgetting curve right away. This active mindset applies to note-taking too. The Cornell method is just genius because of its structure. So you take your main notes in that big column on the right, but then later you pull out key ideas or potential test questions into the smaller left column, and at the bottom you write a quick summary. Now, here's the magic. This isn't just for neat notes. It's a built-in study tool. You can cover the right side and quiz yourself with the cues on the left. You've basically turned your notes into an active recall machine. Okay, so engaging actively is step 1. Huge. But even with the best notes in the world, memories fade. So the next piece of the puzzle is having a system to make all that information you just learned actually stick for good. And this is where spaced repetition comes in. This is the direct counterattack against the forgetting curve. The idea is so simple, but it's incredibly profound. Instead of cramming, you review information at very specific and increasingly longer intervals of time. The secret sauce is the timing. You want to review it right as you're on the edge of forgetting it. So here's a rough idea of how that might work. You learn something new on day 1. You do a quick review the very next day. But then you wait a few days, maybe until day 5. Then maybe wait a whole week until day 12. You see how the gaps get longer and longer? That's because the memory is getting stronger. You are literally working with your brain's natural process, not against it. And this right here is the absolute heart of the matter. It's not about passively rereading. It's about effortful recall. You know that feeling when you have to really dig for an answer without looking at your notes? That little bit of struggle is what sends a massive signal to your brain that says, hey, this is important. Keep it. And every time you do that, you make that forgetting curve a little bit flatter. That memory is going to last much, much longer. But hey, just remembering facts is only half the battle, right? True mastery, true understanding is being able to use those facts, analyze them, and connect them to other ideas. This means we have to move beyond simple memorization. A fantastic way to visualize this is with Bloom's taxonomy. Just think of it like a ladder of learning. At the very bottom, you have the most basic level, just remembering things. But as you climb, you move towards real understanding, then applying what you know, and all the way at the top, creating something brand new with it. So how do you know where you are on the ladder? The verbs will tell you everything. If your studying is all about defining and listing, you're stuck on that first rung. To move up, you need to be able to explain concepts in your own words. To climb even higher, you have to be able to apply that knowledge to solve a new problem. So this is a really good time for a little self-check. Think about how you study. Are you just making flashcards to repeat definitions over and over? Or are you pushing yourself to explain a difficult concept to a friend, or to apply a math formula to a problem you've never seen before? The goal is to always be climbing higher. All right, so we've covered how to take information in actively and how to review it systematically. But there is one final critical piece that ties this whole thing together. It's the most effective thing you can do to lock in your learning, but it's often the very first thing we sacrifice. And that thing is sleep. When crunch time hits, it's the first thing to go. We pull all-nighters thinking we're being productive, but it's really an act of academic self-sabotage. In fact, one study found that during finals week, college students are getting, on average, just about 6.5 hours of sleep. But here's a cool idea. What if students were actually encouraged to sleep more during finals? One study did exactly that. They created an 8-hour sleep challenge with a little extra credit to sweeten the deal. And the results were wild. Students who took the challenge averaged a full 2 hours more sleep than is typical for that stressful week. So here's the million-dollar question. Did all that lost study time hurt their grades? Not at all. In fact, it was the exact opposite. The well-rested students actually performed better on their final exams than the students who slept less. And that was true even after you accounted for their grades before the final.
The takeaway here is so important. We have to completely reframe how we see sleep. It is not a break from studying. It is studying. Sleep is the phase where your brain takes all that information you worked so hard to learn and actually consolidates it, filing it away properly into your long-term memory.
So let's put it all together into a new playbook. Number 1, engage actively. Ask questions, don't just consume. 2, schedule smartly. Use spaced repetition to make memory stick. 3, think deeper. Always be pushing yourself up that learning ladder. And finally, number 4, prioritize sleep. It's non-negotiable. It's the final step that makes all the other steps work. Ultimately, what this all comes down to is a fundamental shift in your mindset. You are not a passive bucket waiting to be filled with information. You are the active architect of your own knowledge. And these techniques are the tools you need to build something strong and lasting. So I'll leave you with this final thought. After everything we've gone over, what's one small active strategy you can try this week? Maybe it's just turning the headings of your next reading into questions. Or maybe it's just committing to getting 8 hours of sleep before a big day. That first step is all it takes.